don't want your picture or anything on there, don't worry about it. You can turn your camera off. So just want to make sure you guys knew that I was going to be recording. As we go through the presentation, Ms. Dunham and Ms. Alpert, let me make Ms. Alpert a co-host as well. They can manage, you can message them privately if you have a separate question and they can answer your questions, or you can pose it to the group, but we'll also have time to answer questions as a group afterwards. And most likely I'll be covering most of your questions throughout the presentation. So just want to make sure you get all your questions answered, so don't hesitate to use that chat feature. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. Okay. And then we'll do the attendance form at the end as other people join us. Okay, perfect. Okay, we got a few more people coming in from the waiting room. So first off, I've already introduced ourselves for those coming in. Again, I'm Lisa Fay, one of the dual enrollment coordinators. The reason we do these monthly dual enrollment information sessions is dual enrollment is a very exciting program, but there are a lot of rules and regulations involved. And it is that your student and students out there, you are agreeing to be a college student. And so we want to make sure that you feel prepared to do that and have all the information. So I do want you to know that if you have not already, Walton High School has our own dual enrollment website, and the county, Cobb County, has a dual enrollment website. And you're going to find I'm also going to be utilizing the state website. So lots of information to help you maneuver this process. So let's go ahead and start with what is dual enrollment, because some students just hear about it, but they don't really understand what it is. So students are taking college classes while still in high school and earning both high school and college credit at the same time. So most classes that students will take at the college will count for college credit towards their college degree and be counting towards their high school credits and graduation credits at Walton. We do have students that go full-time at the college, and we'll be talking about specifics as far as how many hours that would be at the college. And then more typical is we have students that like to maintain some courses at Walton while taking some classes at the college, and that is considered part-time dual enrollment. And then, as I mentioned before, the state's website is gafutures.org. This presentation that I'm going over is posted on our website, so no need to write any of this down. You can access this at any time and have links to these web pages. And so Georgia Futures is going to house all that information, and there are specific parts of the dual enrollment process that you will have to log into the Georgia Futures account. So some of the most exciting things about dual enrollment that we get asked is, how much does it cost? And for most of the tuition and fees, it is covered under dual enrollment. So there is very little money that comes out of the pocket of you or your family. It does include fees and books. Sometimes dual enrollment, different programs will give you access to electronic books, so you might not get a hard copy book, but you will have access to a textbook. Other times, the only small fees sometimes we've seen students pay for are sometimes there may be a small parking fee. If you're taking something that has a lab, sometimes there's a lab fee. And then if you're looking at a technical college and taking some more trade-based classes like a cosmetology class, you may have to then purchase, for example, a cosmetology kit. But besides that, you're going to have very little money that comes out of your pocket. Most students that participate in dual enrollment are also eligible for the Hope Scholarship. Your dual enrollment credit hours that are covered under dual enrollment funding does not come out of the hours that are approved for the Hope Scholarship, which is 120 hours. So you're still going to get your full 120 hours covered under the Hope Scholarship, and then your dual enrollment covered funded classes. Okay. And so For those of you that have older siblings, I know I have some in the group, there are a lot of changes that have happened in the past year with dual enrollment. And so dual enrollment is one of those things where the state is constantly sending us emails and changing things. And so the law did change last summer, and it started with last summer. And they started capping dual enrollment funding. And so for the dual enrollment funding, it now covers 30 credit hours. And after those 30 credit hours, there are additional opportunities for you to still earn college credit and pay out of pocket, but that funding will stop as soon as your student has reached those 30 hours. Okay, there is something that is called the House Bill 2 or SB 2, you may have heard, and we don't have many students that pursue this option. This is an agreement with the technical colleges, and for students, these students aren't necessarily completing all of their Georgia high school graduation requirements, but are meeting some of the minimum requirements and then going on to earn an associate's degree. And so those are going to be more of your trade-based programs, which would fall under the associate's or the technical diploma. And so if you are interested in that option, certainly reach out to us and we can go more in depth with that. But again, we haven't had too many students interested in this option. So the question is, can anyone apply? And those are some of the things that did change as well last year. And so dual enrollment is recommended for 11th and 12th graders because you are going into a college level class. You are going to be treated as a college student. You aren't in a separate class for dual enrollment students, which sometimes students think. So it is, we do see the most success when a student is in the 11th or 12th grade. The state said there now are some options for 10th graders to be involved. 9th graders are no longer eligible. To be eligible as a 10th grader, you do have to hit a minimum requirement on the SAT or ACT to be eligible for 10th graders. And so also, when do you start? Most of you that are now signing on and attending an information session now are probably interested in starting in the summer or in the fall. The summer can be an interesting time to start just because for the first time you are entering that college class, you are sitting in a class that is condensed into usually around 6 weeks. So sometimes that is the speed of that class can sometimes be difficult for our students. Other students are ready to take on that challenge. But if you're interested in starting in the fall, you're going to typically have that full semester to cover that material. If you're interested in waiting till next January, that can sometimes be difficult to start mid-year just because of our traditional schedule, and you will have already started a lot of your classes. So for example, if you already started your English class with us, you may not want to drop your English class midway and then pick up an English class at the college. But again, you guys that are starting here are starting early and are going to get a great head start. And there is no residency or citizenship required in the state of Georgia to be eligible for dual enrollment. Okay. And then each college sets their own admissions requirements and deadlines. So we have some colleges that will only say that they're taking 11th and 12th grade, regardless if the state says they will take 10th graders in those exceptions if they've met those requirements. And then we have some that have a 3.0 core GPA, and then we have some other colleges like our technical colleges that don't have a minimum GPA. So you're going to have to look at each individual college and look at their own deadlines. Typically, colleges, they don't have a cap. So sometimes I get, well, if I meet those requirements, am I going to get in? If you've met their minimum requirements and met their deadlines, you will go on to be accepted into their program. The only problem may be if you don't start the process early enough, sometimes our students have a hard time getting into the classes that they're interested in that would work with their schedule. So that's why we want you to do the research and apply early. Now is a perfect time to get started for either the summer or the fall. So you guys are all doing the right thing. So students, it's hard, I can't see you. Usually I like to see you guys and talk to you, but for students, what does it take to be a successful dual enrollment student? So students, we want to see that you are doing really well at Walton. You've got the maturity level, you're not missing deadlines, everything, you're organized, you're able to keep up with your assignments. What can happen in college, and typically the only times we really see students struggle is when they start missing deadlines, because at college, you might have 3 or 4 major grades. And if you miss one of those, that could be the difference between you passing or failing the class. So we need students to be organized and to be on top of their deadlines. Also ready to take on the academic rigor. So you're doing well with the rigor at Walton and you're ready to take on that college level class. And then also choosing classes with, with a certain college in mind. And so what we think about it that, and we're going to talk a little bit later about that is, but you have to think about where you want to end. Our sophomores, you don't know where you want to end up, but why you have to think ahead is depending on the college, they may look at dual enrollment differently. So some colleges look at dual enrollment very favorably in the admissions process, and they love to see those students challenging themselves and taking college level classes. Other colleges, which tend to be more of your very highly selective colleges, they're going to prefer that you take the most rigorous coursework at your local high school, which is AP at Walton, before then going on to seek dual enrollment credit, because AP is a national curriculum and they understand the standards that are taking place versus all the different colleges could have different curriculum. And then also, students, you're going to want to research the colleges that you might want to end up at and make sure the classes that you're going to take are going to go on to transfer. Within the University of Georgia system, our public universities, those colleges, those classes should transfer from one to the other. If you're going to Chattahoochee Technical or another technical college and taking a technical level class, some of those trade level classes may not go on to transfer, but those academic classes do. And so we can help you with that a little bit. There's some great resources, but you're going to have to do that research up front because we don't want you getting into a situation where you've taken college classes and they're not going to ultimately transfer to the college you want to end up and earn your 4-year degree from. Okay. And so a couple other things to keep in mind, students and parents. It can be a good situation for students who are a little nervous about college. They're still under their parents' roof and they want to kind of get a feel for it. Again, they still feel prepared, but a little anxious. And that could be a great kind of first step into a college class. Parents, professors are not going to communicate with you. Oftentimes they won't even respond to you. So students, you're going to have to do most of the communication. The student should be the one applying to the college and running this process. Ms. Alpert, Ms. Dunham, and I, we get questions all the time where the parent drives the process, and we are happy to help, but we really want the student to be the driver. Parent, you can be right there supporting them, but if they are choosing to be a college student, they should be driving this process and filling out the application and signing up for their classes as other college students do. Parents, you're not going to have access to their grades on Parent View like you see all our other classes. We do not typically know how a student does till the very end when we receive the final grade or the transcript. So we very well may never know if your student is failing a class till the end of the class. So it's important, students, that you monitor your own grades and that you and your parents have that conversation, that you're going to share that information with them. And then if back in, hopefully we're in some sense of normalcy next year and most of our students are on campus, if you are part-time, you're going to have to figure out transportation if you're doing in-person classes. So how you're going to get from Walton to the college. We do not guarantee parking for dual enrollment students. So most of our seniors are, if they follow the procedures, do get parking. Juniors have moved on to the junior lottery, but it's not a guarantee. So thinking about transportation and how you would get to those classes. Okay. And so if you are a part-time student, we typically recommend, if we're back on our normal web schedule next year, that students, because of our web schedule, we recommend students schedule their Walton classes in the morning. So for example, if you were taking 2 classes at Walton, we would schedule you first to second period, allow about an hour of transportation, and then you want to register for classes in the afternoon. After that second period, you would need to be off campus. We can't, for safety reasons, have students hanging out in the hallways or even in the front of the school if you aren't scheduled for a class. And so something to think in mind, again, just some logistical and transportation information. Some things that students don't think about is that the college break and and Cobb County school break are going to be different. So for example, our lovely September break in the fall, KSU is not going to have a September break. You are going to be expected to be attending classes during that time. And the professor is not going to give leniency because you're a high school student and on break. So you are still expected to attend class. And so taking a look at what you have planned for next year, I know with the pandemic, most people aren't planning much, but just knowing that those breaks are going to be different. Also in the spring, that February break and that spring break are going to be different. If you decide to go full time, you may miss out on some high school communication. So it's important to be checking websites and to be reading the e-blast. And then students also may be having a buddy that you could communicate with in your homeroom. And then we talked a little bit about the bell schedule. Another important thing is our dual enrollment students, when we hear from colleges, one of the main things they say is they want students to stay involved in extracurricular activities, even if they go full time. So sometimes what they tend to see is a trend is if students go full-time dual enrollment, they see their extracurricular activities drop off. So you can still be involved in extracurricular activities at the college. You can still be involved at them at Walton, even if you're full-time dual enrollment, but you still want to stay involved. And so that's something important to consider. And then also, we talked about doing some research, looking at those highly selective schools, and then thinking about AP versus dual enrollment. And so again, those more highly selective schools are going to prefer to see AP in most cases over dual enrollment. If you're not looking at those selective schools, with most of our students are not, dual enrollment might be a great option. And with dual enrollment, you're not guaranteed, you're not having to do well on a test to earn college credit, where of course in AP, you are going to have to earn that minimum score depending on the college to earn college credit for that class. Okay, and so here's where some more information, and you guys can read through this later if you want. Okay, so let's talk about kind of the process and the requirement. So step one, attend a mandatory session. That's what you're doing today. Awesome. So you've done step one. I can't see you guys, but parents, if your student isn't on, a student really needs to hear this too, and vice versa. We want both the parent, guardian, and the student to hear this information because we're going to be continuing to go over a lot of rules and regulations and don't want any surprises. The next step, you're going to be applying to the college for dual enrollment and submitting all the documents that are required. After you apply to the college, you're going to be reaching out to one of the dual enrollment coordinators. And we're going to have two required contracts / local school agreements that we need you to fill out. And we'll be doing that together. And then you're going to go on to be accepted. You're going to register for college classes. And then we're going to need a copy of that college schedule in hand before we change anything at your Walton schedule that is planned, which you'll do in registration in the springtime. So that's a little bit overview, and then we'll get into more specific details. So how do you apply? So what we're going to do, I'm going to go through an overview, and then for those that want to stay on, we're going to visit every individual college that most of our students attend and kind of show you where you can find that information. But you're going to apply to the college. You're going to apply typically on the college website. You're going to Google that college, typical KSU dual enrollment. It's going to bring you up and it's going to walk you through the steps on how to apply. Chat Tech, we have a lot of students at Georgia State. We now have students at Truett McConnell, West Georgia, Central Georgia, Georgia Military College. Every year it's getting bigger and bigger, the amount of colleges that our students are attending for dual enrollment. And you are responsible for filling out the application and submitting all the paperwork. That is not a process that we are happy to help you if you have questions, but that is a process that the student and the parent does. They apply to the college and make sure everything is submitted. Okay. And then for the transcript, most colleges besides your technical level colleges will require a transcript. We actually are doing transcripts this year through My Payments Plus. So if you were to log into My Payments Plus under activities and fees, you could see order a dual enrollment transcript. If you have any problems with that, you could ask us. And then Ms. Schrank goes ahead and takes care of it. For underclassmen, we do have to mail those transcripts. In some situations, we can email those transcripts, especially in the remote world that we've been in. Some of the colleges aren't there and checking mail, so sometimes we have been emailing those. So if you let us know that a college has asked to email it, just let us know and we can go ahead and take that. But for it to be official, it has to come directly from the school. You will not be able to submit the transcript directly. And then for the SAT, ACT, and AccuPlacer, some schools have gone ahead and waived testing requirements because of the pandemic for fall 2021. Some have not, so you have to look. If they are still requiring a score, this is where you would want to go ahead and have your student go ahead and sign up. SAT is going to be on the College Board website. ACT is going to be on actstudent.org. And then you're going to go ahead and register and then request that those scores be sent to those colleges. And that's done during the registration period. You can go ahead and select up to 4 colleges to have those scores sent for free if you do it at that time. If you wait for the scores to come in, you're then going to have to pay to have your scores sent. Some colleges are going to ask you to do an AccuPlacer instead of the SAT and ACT. And again, this used to be more of a technical college thing, but some for placement, just because of the pandemic, may also be asking for that. An AccuPlacer is more like a placement exam. And so if they ask for it, there's directions on the website typically on how you would get registered for it. You want to pay very close attention to the college deadlines. We have students every year that miss the deadlines. And the college deadline may be after the Cobb County deadline, which we're going to go over. And if that's the case, if you don't meet the Cobb County deadline, you will not be able to participate in the program. Okay. Another part of the process is going to be what we call the funding application, and this has changed. Students will only have to do the funding application once a year. We have very detailed instructions on how you would do this. This used to be done after a student was accepted, and that was kind of a last step. This is now going to be done as part of the application process, because what happens is when you do the paperwork with us, you will then go ahead and create an account on Georgia Futures and do the funding application. And we're going to go ahead and put in the courses that we have decided upon that you are going to take into this funding application. And some of the colleges are going to use this information to then allow you to register for these classes. Some colleges may have additional paperwork, but this is how we are communicating now with the colleges. Then once you are enrolled in those classes, the colleges will approve it, and that is how the funding then comes in through the states. But you will only have to do your part once. There is a part a student does and a parent does. And again, we have screenshots and detailed information on how this funding application works. And so just want to let you know how do courses transfer from the college to the high school. And this is something I'm going to show you in live time as well. But there's something called the dual enrollment directory. And this is on the Georgia Future website. And what this does is by college, it's going to list every single college class at that college that has been approved by the state of Georgia to be covered under dual enrollment funding. And it's going to tell us exactly what it equates to or how it should be then recorded on the high school transcript. And so we use this to decide then what state number to use on your high school transcript. If a course is not on there, it's not going to be covered under funding, and then you have the option to pay out of pocket for those courses. Another change that happened this summer is that health, personal fitness, and fine arts classes are not covered under dual enrollment funding anymore. So you're typically going to see your core classes, and then at your technical level classes, you are going to see those. You're going to see some different types of trade classes that are available, some career tech classes, but everything else really isn't covered anymore. Okay. So I put this link just in case you can't find it when you go to Georgia Futures and you want to refer back to the presentation and be able to link to it. Okay. And then just let's talk about kind of typical situation, because I think students are a little bit overwhelmed of, well, I don't even know where to begin, what class I want to take. And the way you want to think about it is you want to think about kind of breaking it into subject area and which subject you might want to take still at Walton and the high school. And so we can kind of help you narrow it that way. So Typically English, for example, if you didn't want to take British literature at Walton and you wanted to go ahead and get your English class, many of our students take English 1101, which is Composition 1 at the college. And that is a 3-hour class. And that comes back as advanced composition on your high school transcript and meets your 4th English requirement. And English 1101 is going to be a requirement in the University System of Georgia core curriculum. So it's a good course to go ahead and get out of the way. If you feel ready, you feel good about your writing skills, you did well on your research paper in your junior year, and you are ready to go enter into a composition level course. Something to note is if you're a sophomore and want to do it for junior year, American literature is a requirement in the state of Georgia. And American literature at the college is typically a third. It typically requires 2 courses as prerequisites. So if you wanted to take American literature, typically you would be looking at taking 3 college classes to be able to reach that. So English 1101, then English 1102, then English 2130 to reach that American Lit. So for that reason, many students decide to take American literature at Walton and wait to take their senior year. For math, you have to be beyond Algebra 2. There is no equivalent of Algebra 2 at dual enrollment. So you need to be beyond that Algebra 2. After that point, you're going to take, typically, some colleges were using the SAT and ACT. Now they've had to be flexible and they're looking at GPA or they're looking at a placement exam. So each college kind of has their own way on now figuring out which college class is appropriate. But typically our students may place into college algebra, which which is math 1101, or pre-calculus, which is math 1113. Those are probably of the 2 most common that they would place to after Algebra 2. If you've taken pre-calculus at Walton, you very well place into college pre-calculus. That is okay. That is still a college level class, which is different than a high school level pre-calculus. The only other class that typically involves a placement exam is going to be your world language. So if you wanted to take a world language credit, they are going to have you take a placement exam to determine which is the best placement for you. We talked about CTAE classes. Those are those career technical classes, and those are still available to you typically at our technical level colleges, and you still need to research the transferability like we talked about. The other one we talked about. And then the only other thing is that a duplicate course cannot be taken twice. So for example, if you were to take a course and that specific state number has already been used on your transcript, and they don't give us any alternate state number in the dual enrollment directory, we can't use that class. Now, most of the time there's an alternate number for us to use, but something to keep in mind, and we'll be discussing with you in our individual appointments. Other things that you might think about, science. There are some colleges that have a 4th science. KSU, we've got kind of science, society, and the environment is a popular one. We've had kids take astronomy, geography at Georgia State. What I don't recommend is Chattahoochee Tech. They only offer science courses that are for their healthcare science majors, and they are very difficult level sciences. So we tend to not recommend those. But if you're going to one of another college, you could look at a science. And then history is a great option. We have a lot of students that take their US history or their world history requirement at the college. And then we have some electives. We've got students taking psychology over there, sociology, human communication. And so there's some other different social science electives that are available. Okay. If you wanted to see how a specific course at a college, for example, if you wanted to go to dual enrollment at KSU and then you're interested in transferring to University of Georgia, you could use the system called G-Tracks, which is on Georgia Futures, and it will show you how that specific course would transfer from one college to the next within the University of Georgia system. So it's a nice resource. Let's talk about those Cobb County deadlines. So if you want to participate in dual enrollment for the summer or the fall, you need to have applied to the college and have the paperwork to us by May 1st. If you decide after that date to apply and are accepted, but we are not going to be able to approve you for dual enrollment, and the county office is they are very set on this, because what happens is the students that wait, we don't work all summer. And so then we're not able to process everything. And then students aren't able to get into the classes that they want to as we drag this out later and later. So if you want to, you have to have everything done by May 1st. If you want to do next spring, you need to have the paperwork done by that November 1st deadline. And again, this could be different from the college deadlines. So let's talk about funding. So we talked about those 30 credit hours where your funding then will stop after those 30 credit hours. If you are at a college that's on a quarter system, it will be 45 credit hours. For some of these other ones that are mentioned on here, these are not going to apply to you. These are for students where the rule changed midway for them. So they were already in dual enrollment, and then the law changed in the summer, and then they still were allowed some extra credit. But you guys are still going, all of you today are going, that 30-hour funding cap is going to apply to you. So again, if you run out, you can self-pay for a course. If you self-pay for a course, it is not going to be recorded on your high school transcript, which means that those credits do not apply towards your graduation requirements. So that would only be as you want to earn additional college credit while you're still in high school and pay for it, but we can't use those to apply towards your graduation requirements. And then if you're enrolled at a technical level college, there are some additional grants and funding available to you. Okay, so now we're getting into some of the big policies that we get the most questions on. So all the students want to know, do I get extra weighting on my high school transcript for dual enrollment? So students, parents, the answer most of the time is no. It is an unweighted course most of the time. Cobb County policy says, unless you have taken the highest level possible course in that subject area at the local high school, it is not going to then be weighted. So for example, they typically give us letter grades on the transcript. If they give us an A, that's a 95, and we have a conversion chart. That would go on your transcript as a 95, which would be a 4.0. That would be a true 4.0 going into your Walton weighted GPA. That would not be a 4.5. That would not be a 5.0 if you had not taken the highest level possible course at the local high school first. Some examples of students that would get weighting would be if you had taken AP Language. AP Language and AP Literature are seen as equivalent in the eyes of College Board is the most difficult. So Cobb County says if you've taken AP Language and then you decide to go on to take an English class, that would be weighted and that would receive a full quality point. If you have taken AP Calculus BC and then go on to take a math course, those are weighted. So those are our distance calculus kids or sometimes students that want to take higher level maths. Again, I know that doesn't apply to most of our students, but those are the ones. And then some of the other ones are, I have a student this year who maxed out their French early, completed AP French junior year. She went on to take French at KSU. That is weighted because AP French was the highest level we offered. And sometimes if you've taken AP Gov or AP Econ and want to take another government or economics course. So those are some of the examples, but for most, it is an unweighted class in your GPA. So if you have any questions about that, throw that up in the chat and Ms. Dunham and Ms. Alpert can address that for you. So another question is, how are they required to take the EOC? And we have to be very transparent about this. This question has changed 3 times alone this semester. So this is constantly changing. So what we tell you today may very well not be the case even in a couple weeks. What we have heard from the last couple weeks, that students for dual enrollment, and you're going to be beyond a lot of the EOCs. And again, they cut the EOCs this year to only include a few. And I don't know if that is going to stay. I don't know after the pandemic what's going to happen. But for right now, all of our dual enrollment students do not have to take the EOC for this school year. But they have said, if you take American literature starting in fall 2021 for the 21-22 school year, you will have to take the American literature EOC. And that will count 20% of the grade that gets recorded on the high school transcript. Again, this could change. It doesn't apply to most dual enrollment courses, but we've been told American literature will have to take the EOC next year if you fall in that category. So for knowing how many courses you have to take, and I like kind of doing this interactively with the chat. So let me pull the chat, get you guys involved, make sure you're still listening to me, because I know it's a lot of information. So students, if you take a full load at Walton High School, you take 6 classes, how many credits do you earn a semester? And if you'll put it in the chat. You take 6 classes at Walton. How many do you earn? How many credits do you typically take a semester? Yay, perfect. Thank you. So you take 3 credits. You take 6 classes. They're worth a half credit each, 3 credits. That's a full-time student. We think of that in terms of our dual enrollment as well. We have to maintain 3 credits. And so we think about that in terms of how many classes we're taking at the college versus how many we're taking at the high school. So if a student, well, we'll jump into that. But if a student goes full time, they have to take at least 12 credit hours. And that is a state rule. They have to take 12. So that would typically be 4 classes at the college. So if you want to go full time, it is 12 hours. They also max out at how many you can take at 15. So if you're full time, you have to take at least 12, but no more than 15. Here, this will help us a little bit with the next part. So now let's talk about how we figure out maintaining those 3 credits. So most classes you take at the college are 3 to 5 semester hours. That means that you're going to have class typically for 3 hours a week. So like English 1101 is 3 hours. A math class and science classes are typically 4 hours. 3 to 5 hour credit hour classes come back on your high school transcript as 1 full credit. So students, that means, hey, I need world history. If I go take world history at KSU in the fall, start in August, end in December, I earn my 3 credits for world history. I've earned 1 full unit of world history. I am done with my world history requirement for graduation. So they are worth 1 full credit where ours would be worth a half. So if I go to the college and take 2 classes, which is 2 credits, and I have to maintain a full-time schedule at Walton, how many classes do I have to come back and take at the high school? I've got 2 classes at the college for 2 credits. How many do I have to take at the high school to maintain my 3 credit hours? Thank you. Perfect. 2. Correct. Because each class at Walton is a half credit each. So 2 classes is going to be 1 credit and 2 at the college is 2. So that is a typical thing. We have a lot of students that take 2 at the college, 2 at the high school. Great. If you were to take 3 at the college, this gets a little confusing. That's 3 credits. Can I then take none at Walton if I've got 3 credits for 9 hours? It's a trick question. If I take 3 classes at the college at 3 credits, do I need to take any classes at Walton? But I'm only taking 9 hours. Yes. So you still have to take a class at Walton because I haven't gone full-time at the college. Remember, full-time at the college is going to be typically 4 classes, 12 hours. So if I'm only taking 9 hours, even though I have those 3 credits, I have to take at least 1 class at the local high school. Okay. The only other requirement would be that 3 credits. If you're a senior, Cobb County policy says you can do minimum day, which is 2.5 credits. So at that time, you could take a total of 2.5 credits between the college and the high school. But that's how we kind of figure it out. We don't recommend taking 6 classes if you're doing dual enrollment. You don't need to. You're earning a full credit for some of those because you are taking on those college level classes. So it does allow you some more flexibility in your schedule to not take a full load. Also, most college classes don't meet every day. Most of your college classes will typically meet either Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or Tuesday and Thursday, which is really nice too. Okay, great. Okay. So we've talked a little bit about how, again, we get that letter grade. This is the numeric grade that comes back. So an A is a 95, B 85, C 76, D 72. I'm not going to have any students that don't pass, so we're not going to go there. We talked about that the weighting only is going to apply if you've taken the highest level course possible in that subject area. But I do want to mention the Hope Scholarship does recognize dual enrollment credits as rigorous, and you do get an extra half quality point for an academic course. Remember, only HOPE is academic. So if you took a CTAE course, that's not calculated into HOPE. Only an academic course for the HOPE, you get an extra half quality point up to a 4.0. For the HOPE calculation, you never can have a higher than a 4.0. So if you make an A, that's an A. But if you made a B in a college level class, that would be a 3.5 going into your HOPE GPA. And again, self-paying courses are not going to be added on the transcript, which means they're not going to then be calculated into your HOPE GPA or your Cobb County GPA. If you are an athlete and you're interested in NCAA, college courses that do appear on the high school transcript do count towards your NCAA core curriculum requirements. This is the major one. This is the one that is super important. So if I've lost you, Ms. Faye is talking way too much, come back to me. This is big. Cobb County policy. So we just hit our first 10-day mark in the start of second semester. For any of our students, if I had a student email me tomorrow and say, Ms. Faye, I don't like sociology, I want to drop out of it, I would say Cobb County policy says after the first 10 days of the semester, you can't drop a class. That's why students can't just drop classes at any time. They apply that same rule to dual enrollment. So if after the first 10 days of the high school start term, if you were to drop a college level class, we have to record a numerical 10, a true 10, like an A is a 90. We would have to record a 10, an F on your transcript. That would then be a 0 going into your GPA for a full unit. So students, you really need to be committed to these college classes. You'll get emails like the rest of the students that says, hey, I see you're not doing well. Do you want to withdraw from the class? And then we get the email, hey, Ms. Faye, I want to withdraw. And I'll say, you can withdraw, but just remember, you're then taking a 10 on your high school transcript, and no one wants to do that. So you are in these college classes. Sometimes the college classes haven't even started by the time you hit that 10-day mark. So students, use a lot of resources. Make sure you do a lot of information before registering for your classes. There's Rate My Professors, where you can see reviews of different professors. So you want to, that's kind of the joy of college that you don't get in high school. You can register for specific professors. So you want to do that research up front. So does anyone have questions about the withdrawal policy? If you do, please chat Ms. Alpert or Ms. Dunham, because this is something we don't want you getting into a situation on next year. If you are an athlete, the same rules apply. So you have to pass at least 2.5 credits, 5 out of 6 classes from the previous semester to be eligible for Georgia high school eligibility purposes for the next semester. I do want to show you the statistics. We have not run them from last semester, and then we didn't want to run them from last spring because last spring it was the middle of the start of the pandemic, and things were not there were a lot of rules that went into place last spring. But last fall was a good indicator of how many students we had. We had 70 total students. These were what we had. Again, we've added colleges to this year, so I still need to go through that data since as of this week, we were still getting transcripts from colleges. So I wanted to wait till we have all the colleges and had entered in all the fall dual enrollment grades before I ran the data from the fall. But you'll see kind of how many students we had and a little bit of the breakdown. And you'll see most of our students go on to do quite well in their classes. At KSU, typically, you can see most of our students went on to earn A's and B's. When you look at Georgia Tech, please know Georgia Tech most of those students are in that distance math program. To be a regular dual enrollment student at Georgia Tech, we don't have any doing it this year, I don't believe. And we usually have maybe 1 or 2. It's a very highly competitive program. So most of those students are distance math kids, and they've finished AP Calc BC. West Georgia, we've had students do well at West Georgia. Georgia Military College is an online program. West Georgia is an online program. And Chat Tech, we did have some students that didn't pass Chat Tech. Some of our failures, Chat Tech doesn't have minimum requirements. And that's not to say, it's just sometimes our students that don't necessarily have the higher GPA may choose to go to Chat Tech. and may not be as prepared. Chats Tech still runs an excellent program, and we still have excellent students that go there every semester and do well. So certainly a program that I recommend and that is run well. Okay, so kind of review of steps. Families, you're going to research the college requirements. You're going to go to the college websites. You're going to see what they need. Do they need SAT, ACT? Do they need a college transcript? You're going to go ahead and do that dual enrollment funding application, and I'll show you where you can find those directions. Once you've done those steps, you're going to email one of us, and I'm going to tell you which one to email. And then we're going to set up a meeting where we're going to go over those 2 required contracts. From there, you're going to go on and get accepted. Typically, they have you attend an orientation. At that point, at the orientation, they'll explain how the student registers for classes. And then you must send us a copy of your college schedule. And then we'll adjust your schedule at Walton once we have your college schedule in hand and make sure your funding application is complete. Okay. So here's a little bit overview of what our checklist looks like. And so this is a great guide. If you walk out completely overwhelmed, we've created this checklist for you. It's on our website, and it walks through exactly the steps you need to take. So again, what we just talked about, and then it's going to tell you, it links you to the directions, the student and the parent directions of how to complete the funding, and then who to set up your appointment with. So Ms. Alpert is working with A to G, Ms. Dunham is working with H to N, and I'm working with O to Z for dual enrollment. If you fall, if for example, you're Ms. Harwood and then you're working with me, dual enrollment, you still would continue to work with Ms. Harwood for anything else not involving dual enrollment. So you don't become my student, you just become my dual enrollment student, but still would reach out to her for anything else, okay? And so this again, review of the steps. So let's go ahead and come out of here. And then want to kind of show you guys in live view some of the things that we were talking about. So I'll keep sharing my screen. So let me go ahead and show you the Walton website. And then Ms. Dunham or Ms. Alpert, if you could put the attendance form also in the chat, that would be great. I think you guys have access to that link as well. If not, let me know so we can gather attendance while I'm doing this. Okay, so let's go ahead and show you our website. Okay, so let me go ahead and I'll share my screen again.
Miss Faye, I don't have the attendance form. I don't know if Miss Dunham does.
Okay, thank you. I'll get that link for that, no problem. So just so you guys know, want to share with you, here is our website. And so you can always get to this from, it's waltonhighcounseling.org, or you can get to it from the Walton website by going to departments and school counseling. Ms. Alpert redesigned this year. It's amazing. So we have everything on here. So if you go to dual enrollment, you've got all the different colleges that are participating. You've got the state kind of frequently asked questions about dual enrollment. You've got eligibility dual enrollment. And then here are the student and parent directions on how to submit the funding application with screenshots. Here are the local school. These are the 2 agreements that we need signed. Again, we will email these to you, but if you wanted to look at them, it's got all the rules and regulations that we went over today. Here is a link to the course directory that we went through. And then at the very bottom, you're going to find the dual enrollment checklist, which goes step by step, the steps you need to take to make it an easy process for you. So let's go ahead and look at the course directory together. Okay, can you guys see the course directory? We good? Okay, perfect. So here, this brings us to the course directory. So for example, if I were to select Kennesaw State University, and then it's broken up by subject. So if you were looking at taking your English, you would choose English and then hit search. And we will help you with this, don't worry. This is the part that we help with. But you're gonna see every class. And so what you can see is you can see English 1101, which is composition 1, which is What most students would take is their first English class at the college. It's 3 hours. And then it tells us how it's going to come back on your high school transcript. So this is the state number and advanced composition, how it's going to come back. And so this is a great way. It's going to tell you this is pretty accurate on any prerequisites that are required. So obviously courses that have prerequisites, most of our students aren't going to be eligible for. But again, we can really help you with this part. If you come to the meeting kind of knowing what subject area you want to take, we'll help you research this and put the correct state number and course number for that. So that's taking a look at that. And then just want to bring you to, so the KSU, if I just switch screens, you guys can still see KSU right now. I'm on the KSU dual enrollment. Just let me know you guys can see it. Okay, pull up the chat. Yep, perfect. Okay, so for those interested in KSU, all I did to get here, I Googled KSU dual enrollment. It's going to bring this up. So what it's going to tell us that for fall 2021, students are not required to submit the SAT and ACT. Now, this is just for KSU, but they're going to want a transcript. So you're going to order the transcript on My Payments Plus. They require a 3.0 core GPA. So they are not, we get some students that get upset because they, on their Walton transcript, they have a 3.0. But when they calculate the core, which is English, Math, Science, Social Studies, and World Language, they fall below that. KSU is looking for a 3.0 core GPA. And typically they don't add weight for AP and honors in that 3.0. So they're gonna look for that. And because they have waived the testing requirement for KSU, you have to be beyond Algebra 2. And this doesn't even mean even if you're not going to take a math. This is for being admitted to the KSU program, you have to be beyond Algebra 2. And so that eliminates a lot of our juniors. And so for some of our juniors that want to do it, they may have to start a different college, and then they may have to wait and apply for dual enrollment there for their senior year. So they require successful completion before the start date of dual enrollment of Algebra 2. And so you're going to look, they are going to, so here they're going to hit apply now. It's going to leave you right to their application. So you've got your application, your transcript, and then KSU deadlines. If you look, you want to scroll down to dual enrollment. Their fall deadline is April 1st, where they need, so you have to actually do the application by April 1st, and then they need all the documents by May 14th. I will tell you KSU's program is amazing because they let their students, if they've gone through the orientation, register before they're college students. So the earlier you can get in and get into a registration, you're going to have better access to the courses and course times. So I highly recommend applying to KSU earlier than later if you're interested in that program. So that's the KSU. And so let's look at Chat Tech. We usually have a lot of students that look at Chat Tech. Okay. And so if we get to pull that up, okay. So Chat Tech, if you pull it up, it is really clear. So it's going to pull up their page, and then you're going to go to admissions for dual enrollment, and it's going to say admissions steps. And it's going to walk you through it. It's going to say complete an advisement plan. That they will accept our Cobb County advisement form, which is one of the two forms. So you upload that here, and it's really like they load it, they make it so easy. You're going to complete the funding. We've already talked about that, and directions are on website. And so it kind of walks you through more detail of that. Step 3, you're going to do their actual online admissions application. The parent is going to do their part of the funding. A lot of the colleges are going to have you send a verification of lawful presence. That's usually a passport, a birth certificate. So you have to upload that. And then you can optional qualifying. Okay, so they have waived. So if you look, this is, they updated their policy. We weren't sure about this, but they have said qualifying test scores will not be a dual enrollment admissions requirement for summer and fall of 2021. This was not the case last semester, so they are not. But if you want to be a 10th grader, you must submit the qualifying SAT or ACT scores to take core classes. So So something about that. So it's all the directions are right on the website for Chat Tech. Do I have any students interested in Georgia State and want to see Georgia State or any other colleges that they're interested in? So that's a great question. Even 10th grader are applying for the summer. So what we've been told, and Ms. Alpert and Ms. Dunham, correct me if I'm wrong, we have been told that because that we can roll you up to a junior at the end of the year if you have the promotion requirements. So as of that point, you would be considered a junior and we would do your funding as a junior. So at that point, I do not believe you would then have to submit test scores to Chat Tech. Ms. Alpert and Ms. Dunham, is that how you've understood it? We've gone back and forth a lot with that.
Yes, you're rolled up.
So you're rolled up, so you would be considered an 11th grader after you finish the year, as long as you have your promotion requirement. So you would not then, if you are a junior, you would not have to submit pass scores for Chat Tech or KSU. Okay, great. Are there any other colleges that people, oh, I see Perimeter. I think I see a Perimeter, right? Okay. So for Georgia State Downtown and Georgia State Perimeter have slightly different requirements. So you want to make sure you type in Georgia State Perimeter dual enrollment and make sure you're on that page. And you always can know if you're on the Perimeter page by looking at the top of the screen and you'll see perimeter.gscu. But it's going to be a similar that you have to be an 11th or 12th grader, the lawful presence like we talked about, and the admissions process. They also are not requiring test scores. So again, they're just looking at that 3.0 GPA. They may have you do some AccuPlacer tests, it looks like. So their deadline is going to be July 1st. That's not going to be our deadline. You've got to get in before May 1st for us. So Georgia State, but like I told you, KSU starts advising pretty early on in the semester. Georgia State, sometimes they don't start advising till the summertime, and it's a little harder sometimes for our students to find courses sometimes at Georgia State versus KSU, just to be upfront and honest about that. Chat Tech, they started advising earlier than Georgia State as well this year. Sure, thanks. No, typically a student doesn't apply to several colleges. Typically, if they meet the minimum requirement, they're going to do the research up front and go ahead and pick the college they're most interested. I will be upfront with you. If you have the minimum GPA to get into KSU right now, KSU to me is a very, very well-run program. I would definitely look at that one. And KSU does offer online classes as well as face-to-face if you were worried about that. Georgia Military College. Georgia Military College works a little differently because it's a full online program. Typically it's just here you complete the online application and then they are looking at a 2.5 course. So if you didn't have the 3.0, this could be an option for you for the 2.5. And they are still looking like you have to submit some sort of test score or placement score. You could always reach out. Every college has their own dual enrollment office and advisor. So you always could reach out to them. Typically with my Georgia military kids, they work very closely with the Georgia Military College advisors. And typically you don't register for classes. You just let them know which class you want, which comes from the advisement form that we fill out together, and then they place you in that class. Good questions. Ms. Dunham and Ms. Alpert, if you want to take additional questions, I'll look for the attendance form and put that up. And if you have additional questions, feel free. We can stop the recording at this point, Ms. Dunham, and then